Welcome to Trump for President 2020 YouTube channel, where we discuss all things Trump and how in this election year he makes progress towards another presidential term. Earlier this week we published our video entitled Trump Acquitted in Impeachment Trial, where we highlighted that on the two charges levied against the president, one, abuse of power, 52 senators voted against the impeachment and 48 voted in favour. And on the second charge of obstruction of Congress, 53 voted against and 47 voted in favour. Thereby the impeachment failed. Now this was the third presidential impeachment in US history, the last one being Clinton in 1999, and the first was President Johnson in 1868. And we provided a link below to that video in order that, if you haven't already seen it, you may apprise yourself of its content. Now we mentioned, or perhaps to a degree the conclusion of that, was the considerable level of partisanship we're witnessing in American politics today, but also in other countries across the world. And this was exemplified really on Tuesday when Nancy Pelosi ripped up the president's State of the Union address, or at least the copy she was given when he finished speaking. And it is on this we shall now reflect. Firstly, we felt that the president gave a very clever and quite restrained address. He did not mention impeachment, rather surprisingly, as that by then he still had not been exonerated by the Senate, even though it was a foregone conclusion, and gave a very good rendition of his achievements since becoming president. Now, one can argue whether all of that credit is down to him or not, but notwithstanding this, it was quite an eloquent speech, and especially one which would excite his supporter base. So really, it was a job well done. The issue, however, that arose from this was, firstly, Trump not shaking Nancy Pelosi's hand when he presented her with a copy of his speech, or the State of the Union address to be more formal, and then the second issue being her tearing it up after he gave that speech. Let's firstly deal with the handshake. We're not really sure whether he actually saw her extend her hand or not. He did not shake Mike Pence's hand, who sat next to Nancy. And looking at the film footage that the media has put out there, one could assume he did not see her extend hers. Or perhaps, as we've all done, we've looked in a direction, looked away, and then perhaps remembered what had happened as we looked away, but it was therefore too late to turn back and acknowledge it. However, if he did, if he actually saw her extend his hand and ignored it, then clearly he had no desire to shake it, as after all, they were in the final throes of an impeachment action, attempting to get rid of him from office. So it would hardly endear the president to Nancy Pelosi. On reflection, perhaps it would have been better if he had shaken her hand. But as already said, he didn't shake Mike Pence's, and therefore perhaps he wasn't expecting to do so. Now the second issue, and perhaps more contentious, was her tearing up the speech after he had given it, and before he left the chamber, in other words, doing it in his presence while he was being applauded. Now some have accused her action as illegal. We personally think it's nonsense that it's illegal, but we certainly, because we are from the United Kingdom, it certainly wouldn't be illegal here. We still doubt very much that it's illegal in the US either, especially as it was just a copy. Now, was it disrespectful, however, to the president? Well, yes, it was, but it was also meant to be. Was it an action becoming that of the speaker or of a speaker in the House? Well, in many ways, no. It was not an action becoming of the speaker. Certainly not at that event, where frankly she should have at least given the impression of impartiality, or if not that, accept the norms of her position during this rather historic occasion. But after all, it's a tad ironic President Trump basing his credentials on being a disruptor. Perhaps it would be hypocritical to accuse Nancy Pelosi when she becomes one. It's an interesting argument. Did it look petty? Yes, you bet it looked petty, certainly to her detractors. But to her supporters, it actually looked brave and showed a fighting spirit, and also exemplified the contempt that she has for the president, for his behaviour, and what she calls his lies. The one thing that action did do, though, and this for us was really the overwhelming message we got, it stole the headlines. To a large degree, it moved people away from the positive message the president wanted to convey and moved it to her tearing up that address. So it's all focused on Nancy. And virtually every headline and media footage is that of her tearing up that speech. To add to this, you then have the likes of Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz announcing plans to file an ethics probe against Pelosi, thereby highlighting even further this action. Now, we are not convinced that this necessarily helps the president. He has a good, strong message to convey about the United States economy. The agreement signed between the US and China, the final signing of the USMCA, and Trump's impeachment acquittal. Accusing Pelosi of being petty and pursuing that could, by some at least, be deemed as bullying and petty in itself. Now, it may work, and perhaps they can, the Republicans, gain some political mileage out of an ethics probe. But for the president to reach beyond his base and ensure his win in 2020, our view, for what it's worth, is now for him to keep doing business, keep signing deals, and look at infrastructure development, thereby ensuring more job creation, higher wages, and an overall level of economic success. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on what Pelosi did? Do share them below, please. We also hope you both begin and continue to enjoy our videos, and if so, you can show your appreciation by subscribing, pressing the bell sign, and giving us a thumbs up and occasional comment. In addition, if your budget allows and you shop online, we've provided certain product links below which may be of benefit and use or interest to you. By using those links, we will receive a small commission, which will help enable us to produce more and better improved videos in the future. Thank you again for listening. Until next time.